and you go to a doctor, and the doctor looks at you and says, "Oh, show me your tongue." And you go, "Oh, wow, you have a bad liver." And you say, "What do you mean? I don't feel anything." And he wants to give you that really disgusting bitter medicine, which is for the liver, and you think your liver is totally okay. You think you're going to swallow it? No way. You will only swallow it when you trust that doctor and when you recognize that you need it. Otherwise, why would you swallow bitter medicine? So this is a bit this practice also. That is why the attitude that we are sick, sickness in terms of we have emotions that we don't necessarily want to have. Or how many of you really think that you have to keep your negative emotions? Huh? Nobody.
Sometimes.
Like what?
Like fear as a mean for caution.
Okay, fear is not a negative emotion. No. Fear can be helpful, and fear can be totally unrealistic. When it's helpful, we would call it common sense. Like, I love free fall, but I don't jump off the cliff because I'm afraid of crashing on the ground. That is common sense. Panicky fear, fear of death, for example, just being afraid of death, that doesn't help you. If that, because you have to die anyway. But if that fear of death makes you look now, how do I want to live my life so I can die without regret? Then it's a good, of course it's very beneficial. Or you drove too fast. Police is standing there. You know, stop. What kind of has it ever happened to you? Okay. The police stopping you, not just getting the bill. Because if you get the bill, you get angry and blah, blah, blah. But if somebody is there, do you get angry? Like you roll down the window and you burst out your anger at that person, at that policeman and say, "You stupid idiot, I'm in a hurry, why are you stopping me?" Do we do that? No. We would do this with our partner if he has made a mistake or something. Then we blurt it out. But when we are reasonable enough to know that this is not beneficial now if I blurt out my anger, because then I really get it. So we don't use it. So it's fear of the result of anger that helps us actually not to be angry, which is a very good thing. So I would call this fear common sense. But very often we're not afraid of the consequences of our anger because we do it to people that we think we own them or we're not dependent on them. If you're angry at your boss, it's quite rare that you let it out. Problem is you swallow it and then you let it out somewhere else. Somebody who has nothing to do with it, or you turn it against yourself. These are the sicknesses. These things, these very strong emotions that we don't know how to deal with. So fear, yeah, fear is a good thing. Fear of samsara is a good thing. Fear of the suffering of in samsara. Actually, in order to take refuge, in order to become a Buddhist, you need to have this fear of these negative emotions growing and making more and more and more actions. And the trust in the Buddha that these methods can help you. It's the same with the sickness. If I'm not afraid that my bad liver will get worse, I will not swallow that bitter medicine. No way. If I'm not afraid that the cancer is going to get worse, I will not go to chemotherapy. So that's a good thing. And we use it a lot in daily life, so we're not just doing everything that we want to do. Like you're not just eating just ice cream, you also eat some healthy things. Or you're not screaming at your boss because you know that you might lose your job. But then you have to do something else. You have to work with your anger instead of just swallowing it. So do we all agree that these negative emotions are creating a lot of suffering in the world? Let me tell them again so that we're quite clear what, fear doesn't feel good. It's not necessary, but anger can feel very good, by the way. You see, we make the mistake, we think a negative emotion is something that makes me feel bad. Not necessarily. Knowing that you made a mistake, it doesn't make you feel good at all. But it helps for you to amend.
I think that many times fear is side effect of attachment. When you attach to something or someone, then fear to lose.
Yeah, of course.
Then it's a very negative emotion.
Yeah. Yeah, this is what I'm saying. Fear of something that will happen anyway, that is unnecessary. But the fear that will prevent you from something that is not beneficial, that is. This is why it doesn't go into the category negative emotions, because negative emotions are by nature negative. This you would put into a changeable mental factor, like sleep and regret and these mental factors. Whereas anger, the wish to harm, in the long run is never beneficial because it harms people, it hurts them, and it creates an imprint that you will have to go through the same situation again and again and again, and you will meet with anger. Anger will come back. So everybody wants to get rid of their negative emotions, I hope, because if you don't want to get rid of your negative emotions, you're in the wrong place. Yeah.
Maybe specify what are the 6 negative emotions? What are they?
Well, the 6 negative emotions are, well, there's 6 main ones and 20 secondary ones. We'll do this afternoon. We'll go through them this afternoon. And then you can recognize them. And the list is not totally complete, because some can be sometimes helpful and sometimes not. So we decided that we want to go in this path. We decided we want to become a healthy person. Then we need to see, do I have what is called this precious human rebirth? Why do we think like that? Why do we think about the good things now that we have? First reason is because it builds us up, it makes us happy. So Zopa said very rightly, there is no lasting happiness. No, but there is moments of happiness that we need and that we need to use, because if you're constantly depressed, there's no way you can practice. It's impossible. So we need to find where we can find like temporary relaxation. And in general, these temporary relaxations come when, as Chaya says, you have an idea, you want something, and then you get it, and then for a short moment you're happy. It hardly ever comes, but it could also come from that, to see that the situation that we're in could be totally different, meaning it could be totally worse. So in general, we let the mind go into, but it should be better. And then it makes us sad and depressed, and it blocks us. But when we do what is called this contemplation on the precious human rebirth, we imagine how it would be if we would not have these freedoms, for example. At the moment, we are all free from having a sickness that prevents you from being here at the moment. Okay? And we could all have such a sickness. All of you could have tripped and fallen down the stairs. I see somebody fell. Did you?
Just slipped.
Yeah, slipped,
Didn't
fell.
break anything.
I guess it hurts. Usually these things burn. It still enables you to be here. If you would have broken your leg, you wouldn't say, oh, no, let me stay. Because yesterday you said, oh, I appreciate so much to be here. Yeah. If you would have broken your leg, the appreciation of being here would be much less strong than the need to do something against that pain of the broken leg. Do you see what I'm trying to get at? So we start to be really happy about this, that at the moment, none of us is in such a situation that we cannot sit and listen and think about these things. Do you want to put something on it?
I
Or
have something to put.
you have?
Yeah.
Because if it's dirty,
No,
we
I do
can,
have something on it to put.
it can get it infected. So we start to appreciate that. Then we start to appreciate that we have water coming out of the taps. Not just for showering, but also for drinking. Somebody cooks for us. We don't have to go shopping. We don't have to cook it. The only thing you have to do is put it in your mouth and then wash your plate. How many times do you have such a situation? Not many times, is it? Well, if you go to the restaurant, okay, but you're not going to the restaurant every day. And especially that we do have access to food, even if we have to buy it, even if we have to cook it, we have free access to food. That can finish any time, because the way we're exploiting the planet, with less water and less crops that grow and this and that, all the chemicals that we put, and all of a sudden there's an accident with chemicals and far too much goes into the air, and then we can't even breathe the air anymore, and everything that's been touched by these chemicals is contaminated, so you eat it, it kills you. Yeah, there's movies about scenarios like this, and more and more they become almost reality.
Like in Chernobyl.
Huh?
Like it happened in Chernobyl.
Like in Chernobyl, exactly. It's a good example. It doesn't look different, it doesn't taste different, but if you eat it, you have a big chance of getting cancer. Many people from these areas got cancers, and the children who were born, they were disabled and things like that. We're surrounded by these things. So instead of being afraid now, but the purpose why I'm talking about these things, instead of being afraid, we are happy that, it's not like this yet. Because it might come. But being afraid of these things doesn't help us. It just blocks us. Because we have no influence on these things. You can, which would be very good, you can really see what the water that you consume and what kind of things you buy and so on. This we have a little bit of an influence. If everybody would do it, we would have a big influence. But not everybody does it, but you can do it. So then everybody does their little share. Okay. So we're free from having such a situation at the moment. We're free from being terribly sick or having terrible pain at the moment. At the moment, we're also free of, for example, only being interested in pleasures. Like I'm sure you have more pleasant weekends than coming to the courses. More easy weekends. You go to the beach, or you go to the movies, or you see friends, or whatever. But the wish to have pleasure, at the moment you're free from it, or at least it's not so big that it prevented you from coming here. We also have the freedom from the family. They let us go. Not all the weekends, maybe. We also have the freedom at the moment to be in a country where it is allowed to do these things. We could be in another country where you're not allowed to do spiritual practices. You have a dictator, he says, no way, but I'll let people meditate because they become independent, and I want to have them afraid and under my control, and so then no way I allow spiritual practices. Tibet is a country like that. All these, Buddhism was, Mao said it's opium for the masses, and so everything was destroyed. And if you would practice, you would be put into prison. So, would we have enough courage to still be doing spiritual practices? I know that I wouldn't. If there's a danger of being thrown into prison, and anyway, you cannot practice. You don't have to quiet, because every time you hear noise, you think it's the police coming to get you. You would think 3 times to come to Yechiam if you would know that it's dangerous, wouldn't you? So we're free from that at the moment. I see you're making all very concerned faces. The contemplation is to make you happy and not to make you concerned. That's the purpose of this contemplation, that we see the good situation that we're in. We have access to teachings. Look, like I only pulled out a few books. If there's not enough, I can pull out more if you want. But since if there's none left there, then maybe I will go and get more. But for the moment, it's okay. You have internet, YouTube, like so much access to spiritual teachings. Almost too much, because then again, you don't know what to do and what to practice. But we do have access. You could have a wish for doing spiritual practices, and there's no way to do them. You don't find any tools, you don't find any methods. I wasn't born with the knowledge of how to sit and how to meditate, how to transform anger, or how to create equanimity. This one teaching on equanimity changed my whole life.
What's it called?
Equanimity is you put people into categories of friends, you're quite nice to them, categories of antagonists, you're not nice to them, and the big category is strangers, you're not interested in them. And to see them all as human beings, yeah, you can take it down, actually, I don't need it. So I have mine here. So, to see all beings as human beings, as beings who are just like me, and so then it's equanimity starts to create, instead of me and them, it starts to create us. No matter what people do to me. Like a big family. And I'm talking about a good family. Family that, even though sometimes there's conflict, but still when somebody needs help, the family is there. This is what I'm talking about. And I heard a German singer, Gerd Grönemeyer, who is doing a lot of projects, like health projects in Africa. And he said, this whole thing about compassion, we don't need to develop compassion. We need to develop an attitude of we're all family. Because then it comes natural. In a normal family. But unfortunately also families can be very dangerous places. But if the family has this connection of we are family, if one has money and the other doesn't, if that one who has money thinks that the money helps, if that one just goes and spends it and comes again, then of course no. But if they think that their money can help at the moment, they will give the money. No problem. This wish to help, this wish to be there for each other. What do you think? Families today, they still work like this? Yeah? Your family still works like this? Brothers, sisters, when the parents die and then there's inheritage? Are we grown up enough that we say, look, I have enough, I don't need it, let's give it to the one who doesn't have any? Of course, if you are the one who doesn't have any, you would immediately say, yes. If you're the one who really has a lot of money, you will see that your other brother or sister is maybe not working so hard as you do. But you have enough. Would you give all? How many brothers and sisters do you have? 2. Okay, that's nice. That's the way it should be. And also, on top of it, would make us happy. Because how can you be happy about receiving something when you know you already have enough and the other one is lacking? How can that make you happy? It can give you a sense of happiness, but I think it's perverse happiness. It really is. And it won't last. Whereas the happiness to see your brother or your sister kind of prospering with that and getting out of their difficulties, if you have love for them, it's so beautiful. That one lasts. If you don't change your attitude. So for the young people, already now you can put that imprint on your mind. When my parents die, and just in case I've made a big career and have enough money to look after myself, and one of the family needs more money, let them have it. Then it would be no problem giving it. Or to say, no, I don't need my part. You could, the lawyers wouldn't have so much work anymore. Because so many inheritance cases end up in court. I don't know why this law came about that children have to receive in equal parts. It's the parents' money. Why can't they decide whom they want to give it to? They can't. You don't have a part that needs to go to each?
No, if the parents right away, it goes according to the will.
Are you sure?
Yes. And the parents can
Only
say
if
that
there
this
is
child
no
doesn't
will.
get anything.
Only if there is no will, it will be divided into.
Only what?
If there is no will, then it will be divided equally.
In
But if there
Switzerland
is a
you
will from
can't.
the
In
parents,
Switzerland there's a part that needs to go to all of them. A part, not all of them, but a part. Okay, so you're lucky. Do you still have what's it called? But you have court cases of inheritance? Then you shouldn't have any court cases.
Why? Somebody feel that he was mistreated.
So then there must be a law.
Yeah, no, and he said this brother influenced on the father or the mother to sign that they all go to him. They influenced because he was sick and he was dependent upon this brother that lived nearby, and then many cases like this.
Okay. Many. So we can avoid that by thinking, if my brother and my mother, if they give the money to somebody else, or even to none of the family, because the family has enough and they give it to, can they also give it like nothing to the children?
Yes.
the charity,
To charity, to
your neighbor.
to vet,
to the dog. You can give it away.
Well, you can give it away, of course you can give it away before you die, but I mean when you died.
Yes.
Yeah? When it's in the will like this, it is
Yes.
restricted. Okay. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe there is no such a law. I thought there was such a law.
It's nice to die in
And then the
I have to ask I'll ask Leora, Kenneth, if there are such laws. Okay, so coming back to the precious human rebirth, what we can also be happy about, that we ourselves, we have interest, and then what you need to develop is that conviction that you can be totally good, because then you will continue on this path. To start to believe in your potential, instead of identifying with the negative side. So we have teachers, we have teachings, we're more or less healthy, we have security, well, yeah, more or less. I mean, it's still allowed to do that. We have companions around us, we're not alone, because to practice this alone would be far too difficult. And in our time, it is still considered to be a good thing to be kind and compassionate, more or less. It's still appreciated, yeah? Because there can be a time where it's not appreciated anymore at all.
When you are kind to some people, which are considered by the surrounding as the enemy, for example, it's not considered a good thing.
Yeah,
They see you as a traitor.
for example, yeah. But if you're kind to them, it's still considered a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, but our kindness is like should go to those, but not to those. This is how it is looked upon. So now, do you think you have this good situation? Yeah? Do we use it properly?
Now we have
At the moment, yes. This weekend, yes. Depends on you, what you do with what we're talking about here. It is said that such a situation is very, very rare. Not many people have it. I think not many people have a real, genuine interest in developing their mind. Everybody wants to be happy. There is no denial of that. Nobody wants to suffer. But to put effort into developing the mind, there's very few people. Although everybody knows that happiness is not to be found outside. This we all know.
Many people are not aware. They don't even know about possibilities, other possibilities.
Yeah, this is why it's rare.
They don't even know the door.
Yeah.
There is a different path.
Mm-hmm.
The metric, we call it oblivious.
Yeah.
They're like blind.
Exactly. So we're not looking at other people now, you're looking at yourself, but I am aware. So then you're very happy about this. And you look at how it would be if you would not be aware. So this is the way we do the contemplation. So something comes up in the mind when we go like, oh, wow, I'm so fortunate. Because when we look at the big masses, it's not common to do these things. Exactly. Hmm?
I wanted to share that when I first started to become interested in yoga and meditation and became vegetarian, so my family thought I'd gone crazy.
Yeah.
They told me to go to a shrink or that I'd gone completely mad.
Yeah.
And I took some pills or I smoked some drugs in India and every possible, excuse.
Yeah.
Suddenly, during the years, I realized, maybe she's doing something right.
Yeah, if you come home with results of kindness and patience and less self-cherishing, then very quickly you can convince them that it's a good thing. But it doesn't really mean that they will do it themselves afterwards. Yeah. Yeah, so this is why this precious human rebirth is very, very rare. It's very difficult to attain. This is why it's so rare, because in order to be able to have all these conditions together so that we can practice, you need to have practiced ethical conduct in a past life, in one of your past lives, meaning you would have had to be a person that was totally non-harming. Yeah. I went through it, you will recognize, the ones who heard about precious human rebirth before, you recognize the points, but I'm not going to make it very traditional, because they're very, very specific points that we will do in the Lamrim retreat. So these are the main ones. You're free of being sick, that would prevent you from practicing. You are free of having so many needs that you have no time to practice, like food and drink and to sustain yourself. You are free from having no teachings whatsoever, no access to teachings. You are free from being a land that is it's too dangerous to practice. So we can use these points that it really applies to us. Otherwise, they talk about being free of being born in the hells and in the hungry ghosts and animals and all this, and it can block you when you hear these things. But it also applies to us. If we would be born in Syria, I wonder if we would have a weekend on these things. Just having a quiet weekend in Syria where you can just relax is almost impossible.
Can I ask something? If we want to give to someone else,
What do you want to give?
we want to help others out
Yeah.
of kindness. So, should we not consider giving them something from each and every one of these points? For example, it is not enough to give them access to Dharma. Also, they need food and drink.
Definitely.
And so
But you look all well fed, so this is why I didn't bring any food for you.
no, I'm asking when you're working with others.
No, this is what I'm saying. If you want, again, forget about others now.
Okay.
This is about you. This contemplation is about you. I am free from having these difficult conditions that I could not practice. And then we become very happy about the situation. This is the point of thinking like this. Not to look at others and say, oh, poor things. We're not there yet. This comes at the end of the path. First, you remember yesterday I said, first we learn to look after ourselves? We're still there. Because if we can't look after ourselves, if you don't have a situation where we don't need that much help anymore, we cannot be of help to others. But it's true, you're right. If somebody comes and says, I'm hungry, and you say, oh, but have you ever heard about karma? And you start teaching them on karma, it's not very skillful. First you have to feed them. But we have it. We're free from not having it. And then we look what we have. For example, we have faith and trust in our own potential. That depends on you. This you have to develop. And you can develop it quite quickly when you start, instead of being so focused on your negative sides, when you start to focus on the moments when you're totally open and totally okay. We have short moments like that. I'm sure everybody has had it. So we start to focus on those. And we start to identify with those. This is what I want to find. And when we start to work with our negative emotions, that we see we can actually decrease them. Not immediately after just hearing these things. You will still get angry, you'll still attach, you're still jealous, you still have all these things. But at least you are aware of them. And then if you are aware of them, you can do something with them. So we have that. We have companions around us also that do the same thing. Here in Israel, quite many, actually. I said this is a small course. In Switzerland, this would be a big course. Swiss people are so well, they don't need to practice. That's what they say. Our situation should also not be too good. Because then there's no wish, there's no need. Why should I? This is what all my schoolmates tell me. Yeah, it's very nice what you're doing, but I don't need it, I'm happy. And I'm sure you know people like this. When you say you meditate and you do spiritual practices, they go like, what's wrong with you? You're happy, you're well, why do you do these things? Almost with pity they kind of look upon you. Yeah? So please don't do the same thing and look with kind of pity upon them who are not doing practices. We're living in a time, this maybe I can mention, we're living in a time when the Buddha's teachings is still available because it will go out of existence like everything else that has come together, it will go out of existence. There will be a time where there's no more methods how to do that. You see, we all think like Christianity, Judaism, Islam and all this, it will last forever. There was a time where there was no Islam and no Judaism and no Christianity, and we think now that it should last forever. If it comes about, if it's created, it will also fall apart at one point. And something else will come up. People will start get other things, other ideas. Because it is only ideas. It's not something inherently existing that will last forever and ever and ever. It's just ideas. But for the moment we have them. We have these teachings. So when we see the rarity of it, how difficult it is to get, just for you, not the difficulty to come to a weekend like this. Some of you will have had to make a lot of arrangements. Me not. I only had to be picked up by Chaya and that was it. I didn't have to make any other arrangements. But for many of you will have to be, your children, your grandchildren, your family, your job maybe. Or was it easy for all of you to come here? Was it easy? Yeah. So you appreciate being here and you use the time in a beneficial way. You're not using it just chatting away about something totally meaningless, because today we can still talk. The problem about our gratitude is that we only feel grateful once, or we think, once we lost it, we think, why didn't I appreciate it more? So often. So this is why in this contemplation you take the negative situation now. It could be like this, so that we appreciate now and not only regret when it's gone, that we haven't used it properly. And already these contemplations, it makes you much lighter, because all of a sudden we see how fortunate we are. And we're not kind of always going to the negative situations that we're in. We start to really see the good side. And then it can go two ways. You can grow up, be happy, appreciate it, and use it in a good way. Or you can become even more blocked because you feel guilty and you say, I don't deserve it. Have you ever had that feeling when you see you feel a bit depressed, you're sad, uneasy, and then you feel somebody that is in a much worse situation than you are, but it doesn't help you to make you feel better about yourself? Have you ever had this feeling that then you're feeling guilty? That you're not grateful for the good situation that you have? Have you ever had that? No? Some people know? Yeah, we all have it. But that's not the point of this meditation. Maybe that's what we hear when we were children from the parents. You know, they make special effort to cook something or to do something, and then we don't appreciate it. I don't like it. And then they tell, but you have to be grateful. So then we're afraid of this thing being grateful, because we don't know why we should be grateful, just because they made an effort, but I don't like it. Why do I have to be grateful if they give me something that I don't like? Yeah, so we don't understand gratitude so much. So do you see now the first point that we are talking about? We have patience. We need medicine. We need instructions. If we are very clear about this, then having this situation where there is a doctor and there is medicine, and we have enough interest we have seen that we're sick, now we're going to use it. This is how it goes together. Without the first point, the precision rebirth, we go like, yes, a what? But it's a very good antidote for depression. Maybe not at the beginning of your path, but once you have recognized that I don't have to believe everything what I think. I don't have to be grumpy. You know, you wake up or you get out of the house with this mood. And everybody gets on your nerves, you get on everybody's nerves, and all of a sudden the thought comes from deep within, when you have already know some mind training or transforming mind, goes, but I don't have to be grumpy. And it can be that it disappears. These emotions are not as strong as we think if we recognize them, if we see them, and if we give ourselves the choice, not having to keep it. This is wisdom. Then fear is if we see what they do to us and what kind of karma they create. That would be the fear. But not kind of panicky fear. We have to be careful when we work with fear. So then in order to use it, we need to ask, will it last? No, the weekend will finish. So that's why we make it, the decision to use it in a good way comes almost automatically. But it will also not last because we're going to die. And we don't know where we're going to end up. So the contemplation on impermanence and death is not pleasant. Meditation on opening your heart towards somebody that you love anyway is much more pleasant. But it's necessary, because otherwise we get lazy and we're not practicing. Because in Buddhist terms, at the end of this life, another life will come. And what determines where we will be reborn is the state of mind at the time of death. So if the state of mind is a positive state, for example, gratitude, you say, wow, I did so well in my life. I achieved what I wanted to achieve. I made some effort. Your mind is totally relaxed. You can go, but if you have a lot of regrets at the time of that, I didn't do this and I did this, I shouldn't have done that and all this. I don't know if you have seen people die with such mind states, or old age, it's too late to do things and then their time is filled with regret. It's not very nice existence. So by thinking about death is certain, really familiarizing ourselves with that point. Not just other people, I will also die. You know what I was thinking about this morning, this Trump and Hillary Clinton. So everybody is convinced that Hillary Clinton wins. She can die. Nobody takes that into consideration. Because why? Because she's so high and mighty with all the bodyguards. So Hillary, I might die any moment, but Hillary Clinton, no. And you know, you remember what happened when Princess Di had an accident and she died? How the whole world went into mourning. And I was in the West, I was in Europe at that time. And that was the same year my mom's, I was in 2000 maybe, something. And I was looking at these crying people in the streets and I thought like, what's happening here? They don't even know her. And then I thought Buddhist, and I thought maybe they understood something. Maybe they understood that if she can die with her Mercedes 800 or whatever, with her bodyguard, and all of this, and all her money, and whatever, what about me with my little Suzuki? With no bodyguard. And not stacks of money in the bank. I think that's what people understood. Maybe it was also all of a sudden we had the permission of all the pain we hold inside, because we hold so much pain inside of not getting what we want, not having what we want, not getting what we want, having what we don't want, desiring things that are far too high up. The world is, I hated the world when I was a child. I thought it was so unjust. Then I started drinking. I think that's one of the reasons I drank. One of the things is I was always full of fear. And the other thing is I couldn't stand the world the way it was. I thought it was so unjust. And alcohol didn't really help. Buddhism helps. The law of cause and effect. Anyway. So then it became a universal pain of samsara at that moment, and we were finally allowed to express it. Otherwise, only small children can express their pain like this. Or when somebody has somebody close to one that has died, or somebody has cancer, things like that. We're not really supposed to cry when it doesn't concern us so closely. People think we're going crazy. And I'm not saying you should now go around and cry. I'm just saying that we should see the nature of our existence, which we do this afternoon. There's a lot of things that are wrong in our existence. So maybe that's what happened at that time. I don't know, when old people were just crying in the streets, mourning. Also, she represented, I don't know if she was as good as it was, but she showed kindness, goodness, and beauty, and using the power and using the money for good things all together in one thing, and now this person has gone. I think that's what also was. She touched something in us that we also haven't, that we would like to be and we would like to do. But we limit ourselves by saying, yeah, but I'm not Princess Di, I'm not as beautiful, I don't have that much money. But we could become Buddhas much better than Princess Di. And Buddhas don't die. If they take on a human form, they will die because they have taken on a human form on purpose. But if you are a fully awakened being, you can choose whether you want to die or not. And then you just take on another form. So it's like changing your clothes. When the clothes are full of holes, you throw them away and you get new ones. It's the body. If the body is old, you throw it away, you get a new one. And you know which body you will take. Whereas us, we don't know. So as I said, we have to be aware, we have to prepare for the time of death. Already now, when we see our mind is going into a negative state, instead of just letting it go, we try to apply awareness, be aware of it. Not to stop it, because you can't stop it, but to see it. And the seeing it will stop it because you take away the energy from that anger. We talk about this stuff now.